What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Maximus Keys back with a brand new episode of Genre Evolution. I hope all of you are doing great today and are continuing to do positive things in your life. Before we continue this video, I need everybody right now to please like, subscribe, share this video with everyone that you know. So without any further ado, let us get to the video, shall we? If you're a fan of funk, R&B, or even rock, then you must know who Bootsy Collins is. Bootsy Collins would help change R&B and funk culture thanks to the originality of his bass guitar playing, or even passing down the knowledge that a legend would teach him that would help change funk culture forever. But how did he exactly contribute to the music industry? Let's talk about it. Coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, William Earl Collins, or who we will all know today as Bootsy, will grow up alongside his sister Brenda and his brother Phelps Collins, who we will all know today as Catfish. With Bootsy not having a father in the home, he would look up to his older brother Catfish, who would end up becoming a guitar prodigy by the time he was a teenager. Originally, Bootsy wanted to play the guitar, and in fact, he would actually touch his brother Catfish's guitar when he wasn't supposed to, and they would get into a fight over it. Later on in life, Bootsy would get his own guitar, but would move over to bass guitar after his brother Catfish needed to look for a bass guitarist to play in his band. Bootsy would prove his worthiness after taking his guitar and replacing the guitar strings with bass guitar strings so that way he could play with his brother. And it was after that situation Bootsy just decided to stay with the bass guitar. A teenage Bootsy, his brother Catfish, and a friend from the neighborhood by the name of Frank Waddy on drums would start a band by the name of the Pacemakers in Cincinnati, Ohio, where they gained actually a pretty decent following. They would work on their craft hoping to get the attention of the label King Records, which at the time was the first integrated company in Cincinnati, Ohio, ran by a businessman by the name of Sid Nathan. King Records was also the home of the godfather of soul himself, James Brown. And it just so happened that one day, while James Brown's band was taking a break, he decided to call in Bootsy and Catfish's band just to hear them play. And it was after that situation, James would help get the guys hired to be session players for other King Records artists. And they would even hit the road with singer/songwriter Hank Bullard, who had also wrote the song The Twist. But all of a sudden, one day in 1970, after playing at a local club in Cincinnati, Ohio called the Wine Barn, the Pacemakers would get a call from the one and only Bobby Bird, requesting that Bootsy and his band would come to Columbus, Georgia to do a show for James Brown. They would fly to Columbus, Georgia, and without any kind of rehearsal, they would kill it that night. Partially thanks to Bootsy's bass guitar playing, because by this time, he was 18 years old. And you also gotta remember the strategic plan that James Brown had also made. Because James's backing band was a brand new young band, he needed that young energy to maintain the music. Because by the late 60s and early 70s, there were new bands that were young coming out of the woodworks. But going deeper into context of Bootsy's bass guitar style by the early 70s would not compare to any other bass guitarists within the R&B and even funk community. He would take the instrument, which is stereotypically seen as just a simple instrument in the background, and would play the bass guitar as if it was a leading guitar. And I believe because of that, it helped make James Brown's shows more three-dimensional, if you know what I mean. James wasn't the only star that was expressing his musical talents on stage.
Come on! Do it! Come on!
Even Bootsy's brother got to show his skills too. James Brown would even teach Bootsy the concept of the one. The one is the first beat of the measure, and you would keep accenting on the one for every measure, and that punch would continue throughout the whole entire song. And if you want an example of the one, I advise everybody to look up a song by the name of Give It Up, Turn It Loose. Bootsy would end up leaving the James Brown band alongside his brother and the rest of the band after 11 months of playing with the Godfather of Soul, partially due to the fact that Bootsy was tripping off of LSD during one of their performances. Bootsy was tripping so bad his bass guitar ended up turning into a live snake right before his eyes. After heading back to Ohio, Bootsy and his brother would end up starting a brand new band calling themselves the House Guests. The band would feature Bootsy, Catfish, Frank Waddy on drums, Clayton Gunnels on trumpet, Robert McCullough on sax, and singer Felipe Wind, who would go out to actually leave the House Guests and sing for the Spinners. After playing for groups that would pass by locally, they would eventually settle in Detroit, where they would meet a woman by the name of Malia Franklin, who was actually one of the many singers for Parliament Funkadelic back in the early 70s. She thought the House Guests looked cool and decided to introduce Funkadelic to the House Guests, and very soon they would be a part of the P-Funk Nation. By this time, Bootsy would end up replacing an original Funkadelic member by the name of Billy Bass Nelson, who played bass guitar for Funkadelic. After the house guests ended up joining Funkadelic, they would get started on recording, and in 1972, they would release the fourth Funkadelic album by the name of America Eats Its Young. Rhythm section wise, America Eats Its Young as a Funkadelic project sounds a little bit different from their previous achievements, from their first record Funkadelic to their second record Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow, and their third record Maggot Brain. Bootsy's perfect timing in the rhythm section would help make the band more dangerous than what they already were. Because of Bootsy Collins' learnings from James Brown, Bootsy would reintroduce the concept of the 1-2 Funkadelic. And ever since Bootsy reintroduced the concept of the 1-2 Funkadelic, there's been different types of outcomes within the music. George Clinton himself even said in the interview, "We already had that slick Parliament sound, but it was always Motownish. We were able to take the James Brown grooves that he would have. It was a whole brand new thing." The rhythm section became a lot more tighter, and it would hit the one right away as if it was a James Brown song. Bootsy Collins would help Parliament Funkadelic steer to a brand new direction of how music should be played, and even the concept of songwriting. Records like Chocolate City and even Mothership Connection will be examples of the one being used in its full capacity. If it wasn't for Bootsy Collins, I don't think the one concept would ever be used in Parliament or even Funkadelic, at least not early on. Shoot, the concept of We Want the Funk probably would have sounded different without Bootsy joining in the band, reteaching the one. Soon by the mid-70s, George would help Bootsy construct his own band that will be an extension of the P-Funk Nation. The band will be called Bootsy's Rubber Band, and it would feature his older brother on lead guitar. And Bootsy's Rubber Band will release their first record in 1976. But Bootsy would mix up his style a little bit, adding pedals into the mix, which would help bring his bass guitar solos to life. And it was because of those different things that he was doing with his bass guitar, he would help popularize the spectacle style of playing bass guitar. And with him breathing new life into the bass guitar, he would even come up with songs such as Stretching Out and I'd Rather Be With You, which would all be hits, by the way. Bootsy's first album would come out on January 30th, 1976 and would hit number 59 on the US album charts and would hit number 10 on the US R&B charts as well. And Bootsy would keep hitting that one as always. He would release another record in 1977 titled The Name Is Bootsy Baby, and another record in 1978 titled Bootsy Player of the Year. But very soon he would end up taking an unfortunate declining downfall within his career. Drugs will end up taking over his livelihood, specifically cocaine and crack. Around the time when he felt the pressures of being a band leader, he would end up canceling a tour in 1978, and he would even end up having a nervous reaction with all the overwhelming things that was happening in his life. Even though he stopped touring, he actually kept recording. In fact, back in 1982, he would release a single by the name of Body Slam. He would keep the funk alive as always, but unfortunately he would stop making music under his name for a total of 6 years. Very soon after his hiatus, Bootsy would come back in more ways than one. He would come back as a musician, and a brand new generation of young R&B and hip-hop artists would even use some of his songs to sample to breathe new life within his music. Dr. Dre would sample We Want Bootsy and would put that in the song We Want Easy for Eazy-E. Adina Howard would have a hit song by the name of Freak Like Me, and on the chorus line, she would take the melody from I'd Rather Be With You by Bootsy and put it within her song. He even sold into a brand new group called D-Light on the single Groove Is in the Heart. He even did collaborations with Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Silk Sonic, Tyler the Creator, and Kali Uchis, and plenty more people that covers a whole entire list. But this only shows that his contribution went deeper than just R&B and funk. He would collaborate with rappers, singers, and even just other musicians. Because of Bootsy's innovative style and his contribution towards music culture, his legacy will never die, and he'll forever keep inspiring musicians to want to play music and producers as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of Genre Evolution. I want to thank all of you for pressing this video. I hope everybody learned something within this deep dive, and I'm going to keep clocking out more every week. Thank you so much for watching this video once again, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.